Who is Dani Francis? That is the question most of the book community are asking with the release of Silver Elite, which is a new dystopian romance. Dani Francis is a faceless anonymous author, and honestly I think it's kind of funny that people are acting like this is a new thing, that authors haven't been faceless before. I don't really care about exposing Dani Francis's identity or theorizing that she's actually George R.R. Martin. What I do care about is reading this book and seeing for myself if it's worth it, if the hype is worth it. I don't have the best track record with like super popular hyped up books, especially when they're like really hyped up right when they release. But I want to give this book a fair chance. I actually have started already. I've read chapter 1. I can't give any thoughts right away because I've only read chapter 1. I do have some notes, but I'm not going to share them yet because I want to see if they get resolved fast enough. Anyway, from what I've gathered about this book from reading chapter 1 and I haven't actually read the blurb all the way, but basically it's a world in the future, as most dystopian worlds are. The main character has a psychic ability that she has to hide because people with psychic abilities are like hunted down, they're not really treated well, so she has to hide her powers. It's sounding similar to Shatter Me, like an adult version of Shatter Me. I'm going to give it a shot though. I'm going to give it a try. I also really like the cover with the colors. Okay, those are my thoughts right now. Okay, hi. Reading update time for Silver Elite. Okay, so I've made notes, chapters 1 through 7. I've been making notes as I'm reading, and I'm going to go through them now. Have them here on my laptop. I'm going to go through them. These are just like my in-the-moment thoughts. They could obviously change if things are revealed down the line. This is supposed to be an honest review, so there's things that I'm liking and things I'm not liking. I'm mostly neutral so far. I probably have more negative thoughts than positive, but I am trying to stay neutral. So whenever I see something that I do like, I'm like, oh, that was good, I like that. But I'm also making sure to note things that I didn't like either. I'm on chapter 8. Chapters 1 through 7 are my notes. And I'm also going to tell you what's happened so far in the story. Basically, the main character, her name is Ren, and she is a modified, which means she has like psychic abilities. And so there's primes, which are like the normal people, and then mods or aberrants, which they can read your mind and like look into your mind and stuff. They have like psychic abilities, and most of them, their veins on their arms will turn silver when they use their abilities, which is why they're called silver bloods by some people. But Ren, her arms don't glow because she's not like other girls, so her veins don't glow. Keep that in mind. So far she's had a one-night stand with this one soldier because there's like this holiday that they're celebrating, and she went into the village and like had a one-night stand with this soldier guy, and then she was trying to leave without him noticing, but he woke up, and then she ran into this other guy while trying to hide from this other soldier. And then as she was trying to leave the inn, there was a white coyote attack on this little boy, and so she killed the coyote with her excellent marksman skills. And it was like 200 feet away, and she shot it right in the eye, and it was like this great shot. And so the soldier she was with was like super impressed, and she was trying to get rid of him, so she's like agreed to him to come over to the ranch where she lives so he could see her shooting, because she said she just practices a lot. Anyway, so she goes home. She lives with her uncle. He's not really her uncle. Uncle Jim. He's like her adoptive uncle. Next day, the soldier guy shows up while she's not home, and she sees them, like him and some other soldiers, arresting her uncle. We learn that her uncle was like this big leader in the uprising, because there's an uprising going on. She sees from far away, and also all the mods can talk to each other. They can link their minds and like talk to each other in their minds. So the uncle tells her like, just go, run away, and then he closes the link so they can't communicate anymore. So then she runs off to her friend and her friend's dad, who are part of the uprising, and they get her to the city where they've taken the uncle, and she tries to stop the uncle's execution, but it doesn't work. And she tries to use this power called inciting, which means that you can like influence what people do. Like you can get into their mind and like tell them to do stuff. And it's like a rare power. I'm gathering it's a rare power amongst the modified people. So she tries to incite the firing squad to not kill her uncle, but instead to kill themselves. And it doesn't work because it drains too much of her energy, and they end up killing the uncle anyway. And then she's arrested because she was running away from the scene. And she's interrogated. She successfully avoids being discovered as a mod, or an aberrant as they would call her in this main city where all the citizens live and like worship the dystopian regime. So then the chapter I just ended on, she's been conscripted into the military, forced to join their command, and now she's in the military. That's just a brief what's going on. I've realized kind of a lot has happened actually in the first 7 chapters, and I'm really not good at recapping books, so I'm sorry if that was totally not informative. But I'm gonna go through my notes now and what I liked, what I didn't like, etc. So, starting off, and this is something that I've noticed with a lot of romantasy books lately, in like the past few years or so. This is not a romantasy, it's a dystopian romance, but I feel like it can still count because it's like in the same vein. But I'm not a fan of stories where the main character starts off like super OP, like they can do no wrong, they're super skilled already, all that. Like that's really popular right now with romantasy books in the female main characters. But yeah, go off. I love a strong female main character, but there's other ways to make your main character strong. And if she's really good at everything right away, that's so boring. Like there's gonna be no development. So we'll see what happens and if any character development happens in that area. But so far she's the main character, Ren, she's just not, she's very much, I'm not like other girls. Like that's literally her personality right now. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, Ren literally describes herself, this is continuing the thread of her being super OP right away. So Ren literally describes herself as invaluable and that she doesn't fit the mold of a typical modified or silver blood. This removes some tension from the story because she's essentially saying she doesn't have to hide who she is, unlike the other mods. It would have provided more stakes if she had to hide. What is with these authors wanting to make their characters perfect? Give me anxiety when I read your damn book if she's not at risk of being caught, and then why make her a mod in the first place? I agree with Past Me on this because yeah, there's no tension. Like she can wear tank tops without having to worry about her arms glowing from using her powers. Like where's the tension in that? Give me like she has to wear long sleeves and she might be discovered, you know? It seems like lazy writing, and don't be afraid to add conflict to your story. Okay, not sure if it's because I haven't been reading much fantasy lately, but the world building was a bit info dumpy and confusing to me. It's still confusing to me. It's not as info dumpy as it was like in the first couple of chapters, but it's still confusing to me. I have more points on this later on. Wolf has got to be that guy from the room she entered. Okay, this is just a random thought. This should have gone in my buddy read, not here, because you guys are probably gonna be like, what? Wolf is this guy that she's been talking to in her mind since she was like 6 years old, and she has no idea who he is. They don't know who the other are because it's dangerous for them to reveal their identities, I guess. But my theory and my friend's theory is that Wolf, that's his code name, is the guy she was hiding in this other guy's room trying to escape the other guy. And yeah, okay, you don't need to know that because that's like getting too detailed. She's just so perfect. This is a direct quote. Mods have perfect eyesight. We don't need pesky things like glasses. Good for you. There's a lot of info that doesn't need to be here. Like there's an entire paragraph talking about microchip ID system that someone tried to make at one point and it didn't work. Okay, what purpose does that serve to the story? If it were left out, it wouldn't have made any difference to the story. There's just little things like that. Like we don't need to know that. I always forget there are others whose powers aren't as strong as mine or as plentiful. And then I wrote literally shut the F up. Okay, and then I put, it's actually kind of cool how the veins glow silver when they use their power. And then I also wrote the way Uncle Jim was captured is anticlimactic. It was kind of anticlimactic, like the soldiers just showed up and he's been successfully hidden for 15 years. And they just happened to stumble. Like it was anticlimactic to me. I think what I'm struggling with is why is this dystopian regime wanting to be oppressive and controlling? It's hard to not compare every dystopian book to the Hunger Games, but like to me that is like the standard. I mean, obviously there's the classics like 1984 and Fahrenheit 451, The Giver. Like those are like the classics if you're thinking about dystopian world building. But for me, a new classic would be the Hunger Games. And so I think we all kind of compare dystopian books to the Hunger Games. And so like with the Hunger Games, it's easy to understand the world building. Like you understand the motivations on the Capitol's part and on President Snow's part. And like even if you don't understand it, you still understand like why it's so bad to be living in one of the districts under the Capitol's rule. And this, I'm just like not understanding the world building. Like why why is this dystopian regime so powerful? Like, their main thing was to get rid of the mods. Like, she had described that 20 years before, the mods were actually in charge of everything, but they were like oppressive to the primes, the humans, the normal people. And then the primes got sick of that, so they overthrew the mods, and now it's kind of like a reverse of what the world used to be. But then also, like, 200 years before was like our world, but then like a big war happened that like really destroyed the world. So like, I guess I'm just struggling with the world building a little bit, and hopefully it'll become more clear. But yeah, I'm just like, why does this dystopian regime want to get rid of the mods? Why is it bad living in this world? Like, is it just because they want to get rid of people who are different from them? Like, that's understandable, but not understandable, but you know what I mean. Like a motivator, I guess. I just wish it were something a little more, something, I don't know. Okay. So we have a whole flashback where she learns how to incite people, aka infiltrate their minds to get them to do what she wants or says. And then we just forget about that particular ability. When she's wondering how to save her uncle, she doesn't think of that. Yeah, that's the thing. When she shows up at the execution, she's literally like, what do I do? How do I save him? Like, look, you didn't think of a plan before you went there? Like, what did you think was gonna happen? And so I just understand, like, before she went to the execution, there was a whole flashback about her when she was a little girl trying to learn how to incite. And I was like, why didn't you just think of that right away? Because then she accidentally incites the 8 people on the firing squad. It wasn't like a pre-planned thing, like, I'm gonna incite them so they don't kill him. R.I.P. Uncle Jim. And then I said, not really sure where the story is headed, but then at the end of chapter 6, it did get somewhere, so I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, chapter 6. Why are we just now being introduced to the blood marks? I was confused for a sec. I know she had been burned on her thigh, and it was a mystery as to why. Oh, that rhymed. But it could have been revealed better. Yeah, she basically said in the first chapter she had this huge burn like on her hip and thigh, and it was like a mystery where it came from. And then it was like revealed that it was a blood mark, which I don't even remember them bringing up blood marks before. Basically, it's brought up because this other mod, her name is Jade Valence. She's like the most powerful mod in the world. Like, she can infiltrate any mind, and she's on the side, the bad guy side. She works for the commander or the general or whatever his name is, who's in charge of everything. And she works for him and like infiltrates people's minds, and she can infiltrate other mods' minds. And she has a blood mark on her face which reveals what she is. And I don't know if that's supposed to reveal that she's a mod or an inciter. I don't know. It's not been explained. But basically, she walks into the room to interrogate Ren, and Ren sees her blood mark, and then she says, oh, I'm so glad my blood mark isn't on my face like hers, or else like my uncle would have to burn my face. So that was confusing. Like, it's just little things like that. They're like, that could have been explained better. Okay, then I wrote, good lord, we get it. You're not like other girls. She's being interrogated by the most powerful mod, Jade Valence, and yet she's managing to keep her out of her mind because she's been trained for this since the age of 5. Like, where is the freaking tension in this book? Where are the stakes? If I know she can get out of every situation unharmed, I'm bored. End of chapter 6. She's now been conscripted into the military, and I'm finally more intrigued than I was, but also I'm confused, and hopefully it'll be explained why she's being forced into the military now. LOL. Okay, then update is to keep an eye on her. But aren't there better ways to do that than having her join the most elite program in the military? Yeah, so the reasoning to why she's in the military doesn't make sense. It seemed like the author wanted to write something that was like fourth wing, like a military academy, but a dystopian version of it, and then she like had to think of some ways to make it happen when, I don't know. That's why everything up until now has been kind of confusing and out of place, like her escaping the interrogation unharmed, like everything that's happened so far, her going to the execution and not being able to save him. Like, yeah, I get that, but also it just kind of all felt like she needed something to be able to get to the actual military academy part of the book. So I think the whole first part, like first 7 chapters, should have been rewritten to better lead up to the actual military academy part, which I think is what she wanted to write. Like, I think she literally wanted to write a fourth wing dystopian book, and she just didn't know how to start it. That's what it's feeling like. Then my last comment was, Ren literally just said the line, why am I so good at it? Meaning shooting. Confirming that her problems are not problems because she's just too good at everything, and yeah. Oh my god, this video is already 16 minutes. It might be less after I edit it, but that's just the first 7 chapters. This video is gonna be like 5 hours long because I'm just gonna be ranting about things. So I think I'll check in after like chapter 15 or 20. So I'm gonna try to keep my notes to a minimum. Now that the story's actually going, now that it's at the plot that I think the author actually wanted to write, I might have less notes. But again, the whole like getting to the military was just kind of, it felt very forced. That's the word. Forced to get to the plot that the author wanted to write. Does that make sense? So hopefully my next clip of my notes is not as long. All right, I'll see you guys after chapter 15 or 20. So I'm on chapter 8 now, and we'll see if I have as many notes this set of chapters. actually have to pause my reading real quick to discuss something because I accidentally saw a different review post for this book on Instagram, and because I'm nosy, I read through it and I tried to just skim so I wouldn't get any spoilers, and I still want to form my own opinion on this book. But something that stuck out to me was this person brought up the fact that this is a dystopian romance. And apparently, I don't have the receipts for this, but they used a screenshot from the author's Threads account. Threads is like Twitter for Instagram, basically. And the author was doing a Q&A, and I think someone asked why she wrote this type of a story. And the screenshot that I saw in the post said, the author said that she had never read any spicy dystopian novels. And so she wanted to write her own spicy dystopian novel. And the review that I was looking at, that I was reading on Instagram, brought up the fact that that kind of takes away the purpose of a dystopian book. And if you're reading dystopian books for the spice, then maybe you should not be reading that genre. And it just really brought up a good point about our reading comprehension and how the genre of dystopian is inherently political. Most dystopian novels are like allusions to what's going on in the real world. And right now, there's a lot of inspiration, I guess, of things that are happening in this country, around the world, that you could write a dystopian novel about. So the fact that this author, which brings me back to my previous point where I was like, what is the purpose of this dystopian regime? It didn't really seem very fleshed out in that part of the world building. It kind of relates back to my opinion on that, because she obviously isn't writing this to talk about some great message or meaning, like in the Hunger Games or any other dystopian novel. She's just writing this to write a dystopian, spicy romance. So I wanted to bring that up in my video and my review, is that, this isn't really a dystopian because it's missing the core dystopian aspects of, the political side of things. And that review also said that this is not a dystopian, it's a romantasy with dystopian elements, and I hard agree. It's unfortunate. I had actually DNF'd a popular romantasy book a while back, and I was going to make a whole video on it and why I think the romantasy genre is failing. And I kind of wish I had made that video because I'm disappointed in the romantasy genre. I feel like it's just the fast fashion of books right now. There's no substance to these books. They're copy and paste of each other. And it's really disheartening because I love fantasy books and I love romance. And so the two of them together is the best. But just been miss after miss for me. And I'm just not one of those people who can read the same book over and over and over again because that's what it is. And that's what this one is. This is I've read this before. I've DNF'd this before. It's just a different setting that's more dystopian. We'll see, though. I'm only on page 80 out of 600. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was a really interesting argument to be made that this is not a dystopian book because there's no dystopian aspects that should be in it. You can't just say, okay, I'm done ranting. Okay, cutting in again to share that I just learned what the title of the book means, Silver Elite. So this is a piece of dialogue. She's talking to this girl. She's making friends. And this girl, Liddy, is the child of two high clearance parents in the command, which is the military. And she says that she's a stable, which means that those are the children of the high clearance parents. Stables are only accepted in the program because of who their parents are, even if they don't qualify. They basically spent their entire lives knowing they're going to end up in Silver Block, maybe even Silver Elite. And then Ren asks, what's that? And then Liddy says, it's a unit within Silver Block Special Forces. Elites have the highest security clearance and they run the riskiest operations. So here we go. Now we know what the title means. Okay, I guess I'm filming little updates as I'm reading instead of just waiting until I'm finished with these 10 chapters. I'm on chapter 10 now. I just have to come on real quick and say that I ship her with this new guy, Kane, more than I do with the guy I think she's going to end up with, who is the bad guy officer from before. His name's Cross. Captain Cross. Oh, he's hunting. Anyway, this guy Kane, oh, I kind of wish he was a love interest because it's like a reverse Grumpy Sunshine thing going on and I'm enjoying it. Like, I think he's my favorite character so far. Anyway, that's all that I had to say. But I had to say it because I know he's not the love interest, but oh well. So I know I said I would check in after like chapter 20. Well, I'm on chapter 43 now. I have a lot of thoughts. I ended up switching over to the audiobook because I just want to be done with this. So actually, weirdly enough, like chapters 8 through 20 something, I didn't have that many notes, but it feels like the last 5 chapters or so, I've been writing so many things down because I'm just so annoyed. Ren has got to be one of the worst characters I've ever read about. I have like detailed notes, well, in the moment notes that I've written down. I just don't have them with me because I'm using my phone to film this and I don't have my laptop to look at. But I wanted to check in because there's going to be so much when I finally do like my review going through the rest of my notes. It's going to be a lot. So I wanted to just check in. I think what I'm just struggling with the most is it's just not consistent. Like the beginning, the author, it seemed like she was just trying to get Ren to the military academy. And then it was kind of fine. The writing was okay. Things were moving. I was enjoying it. And now we're back to the writing just not being very good. And also I'm just questioning why this was a dystopian. Why you can't write a dystopian without any nuanced themes. The writing just could be better. It's just missing something. I have this in my notes. But yeah, I just wanted to update and check in and do a quick little update about this. So yeah. Well, I'm finished and I'm exhausted mentally. Stay tuned for my thoughts. I'll go through my notes and actually form like a coherent script, so I'm not just sitting there reciting my notes. There's a lot I want to talk about. So okay, hi, why am I so like down below? Okay, anyway, as you saw in that last clip, I finished Silver Elite. I've also been battling a migraine all day, so coincidence? I'm sorry, I'm just like, okay. I have 3 main critiques. Sorry if you catch me like looking off to the side. I have a script here because I had to organize my thoughts somehow and I'm not memorizing all of this, okay? So I have 3 main critiques when it comes to this book: the world building, the pacing, and Ren's character. Also, if you watched this far, thank you for not letting me suffer alone. So I'm going to address the first 2, the world building and the pacing, in this section that I'm dubbing critiques / how it could improve. And then I'm going to provide you with specific examples, so buckle in. Seriously though, where was the editor? How did Penguin Random House, one of the big 5 publishers of publishing, okay this book? More specifically, how did Del Rey, who has published amazing books like the Red Rising series, Mexican Gothic, The Bridge Kingdom, and more, okay this book? But I digress. Now let me be clear, this book had promise. I'm going to move my laptop so I can like look at you while I'm reading. I'm going to put this up here so we don't forget what we're talking about. Sorry, Pierce, gotta cover your books up. It feels sacrilegious to have it touching the Hunger Games. Now, let me be clear. This book had promise. The concept is interesting enough. A world with primes, normal humans, and mods with humans with psychic abilities. Unfortunately, this story lacked thorough and enticing execution on its concept. To me, it felt like the author was trying to fit this book into a mold. And that mold is of the typical romantasy that you see on the shelf nowadays. So certain boxes are checked here, like the super amazing badass FMC, the dark-haired morally great love interest, the friend group with one overly flirtatious individual and one like super smart but gossipy individual, antagonists that have no real motivations other than they're just mean. I also mentioned the pacing. I wrote down some thoughts on how the overall structure could have been improved because this book was too long. It's unfortunate because with some cleaning up, I think this could have been a solid debut, and I'm just like, where were the people helping this author out? Like, you need to find people in your life to give you critiques, like actual valid critiques. So let me read you some specific examples. Please keep in mind that these are my in-the-moment thoughts. I would have filmed myself as I was reading, but I don't live alone and I get awkward doing that. So I'm going to info dump on you right here. So these comments all relate to the plot, world building, and pacing of the story in some way. And the reason I'm being so critical on these aspects of the book is because of the type of book it is. Even if you want to write a fun dystopian, which I don't think should be a thing, by the way, or a fantasy romance, you still need world building. Don't disgrace your world and characters by doing the bare minimum, and don't do that disservice to your readers who are looking to truly be immersed in a story, because isn't that why we read in the first place? Okay, chapter 23. Finally, something's happening. I'm going to be reading off my script, by the way, if you see me looking here. A fellow recruit, Batima, was murdered by Captain Cross's half-brother Ro because he discovered that she was a mod. Ren then finds out that Batima was undercover for the uprising, and now the uprising is going to have Ren replace her, but she needs to get into Silver Elite to do that. As a reminder, Silver Elite is the elite team inside of Silver Block, which is one of the sections of the military. I'll touch on the military structure and how that's poorly explained later. These notes are out of order because I organized them into different sections, but I was growing bored of Ren not utilizing her skills that she's always boasting about. So by taking Batima's place as a spy, she can finally show them off. Like, yes, girl. Finally, show your skills now. To add to the previous point, it should have been the goal from the start to infiltrate Silver Elite. It would have made the story way more interesting and would have cut out so much unnecessary stuff. And if you're thinking, but they already had someone undercover, well, wouldn't two be better than one? Better odds that one of their spies would get into Silver Elite. The Uprising knew where Ren was. They could have had her try this from the very start. It felt like a missed opportunity on the author's part to make the story more exciting from the get-go and make it quicker paced. I've come to the conclusion that Ren not having the silver veins, I think we talked about this earlier, her veins don't glow when she uses her power. Her not having the silver veins is a lazy plot device so she can communicate with her fellow mods whenever and wherever without risk of exposure. Why would you write this? This effectively eliminates any and all opportunities to create tension in your story, which is one of my main issues with the book, actually, is the lack of tension and the forced tension in other areas. I could be on the edge of my seat over here wondering if someone's going to catch Ren speaking to her mysterious friend Wolf or one of the Uprising members, but no. Furthermore, the tension in this book is so faked and forced and doesn't make sense. So here's an example. They had to do these mandatory wellness checks for some reason, and they all had to be in the same room for some reason as their fellow soldiers examined everyone being healed by a healer mod. So why are they in the same room, first of all? My theory is solely so the healer can say he will heal the burn scars that hide Ren's blood mark and she can freak out about it. I hate to bring up her lack of silver veins again, but you have a perfectly good choice for providing tension right there instead of manufacturing these unbelievable scenarios. But don't worry, guys. She came up with an excuse and nothing ended up happening anyway, so no one found her blood mark. But wait, later, because Ren is an idiot, she asked the mod healer guy Ellis, who, by the way, we find out off page that he's another operative for the Uprising. Like, Ren says this in a throwaway comment. I'm like, we couldn't have found that out, like, with you? Anyway, Ren asked Ellis to remove her scars as a way to prove to Cross, who, spoiler, turns out to be Wolf, I'll get to that, that he can trust her, because she's like, look, this is my blood mark because I'm an insider and I trust you. See, I'm showing you. And Cross is like, what is wrong with you? You're so stupid. Anyone will be able to see that now. And then that was my favorite part of the entire book, I think, because I'm like, finally, someone knows that she's so stupid. Yeah. But yes, later her friend Liddy does see the blood mark and she does turn her in, so. Okay, now here's an example of yet another useless piece of information given to us. I referenced another one of these earlier about like some ID system, and I was like, why did we have to learn about that? They didn't even end up using it. So Ren and Cross go on a date to this like cave, and it's full of this gemstone called Daggerstone, which is very aptly named because it's gemstones in the shape of a dagger. Very on the nose there. So they go to this cave, and Ren says they're only ever white. Except one time she saw a blue Daggerstone pendant someone was wearing, several shades darker than cobalt, because that was relevant to include for some reason. Okay, remember Uncle Jim, the guy who had to die for the story to get moving? Am I dumb, or do they finally in chapter 45 explain how Jim was identified and captured? In a throwaway line. She says one of the command soldiers who came to the ranch to watch her shoot recognized him. Okay, this is a personal gripe, but the slang is dumb. Remember, this is all in the world building section, okay? So the slang is dumb. Keen, like, I can't, quat, that's like a derogatory word to use towards women, I guess. Hell F, all one word. God effing, all one word. Fect, as in short for defect, because that's what the primes call the mods. You fect. I'm losing my mind. Anyway, the world building to me was lacking, and here's why, if I didn't get my point across already. The psychic abilities are not explained well at all, and the author uses the age-old excuse of there's still so much to learn and so much we don't understand about the powers. She introduces new aspects when it's convenient for the plot and doesn't bother to properly explain anything because that would most likely lead to tons of plot holes. Similar to Ren conveniently not having silver veins, I hate to bring this up again, but I have to. This was just a way to not expand on potential conflict or to avoid it altogether. The military structure, from what I gather, there's 3 or 4 different legions essentially. Tin, copper, silver. Why they're named after metals, I don't know. Maybe there's another one. I couldn't really tell you what they do either. This just makes me frustrated to even try to talk about because some people have no business writing stories that require nitty-gritty details like what the heck tin block does. So the actual world and the layout. The map was useless. Let me show it to you real quick. So this is the map, and it was useless because they mentioned a place by name, and it's not even on here. I think it's the name of the continent itself, but like why not just write the name on there? And there are different wards similar to the districts from the Hunger Games or the sectors from Shatter Me. It's really nothing groundbreaking, but I would have liked more of an explanation on them. Okay, moving on to the romance and the side characters. So I mentioned it felt like the author was checking off a box with each aspect of this book. The romance was one of them. Quite honestly, I don't think this book needed a romance. You know why most dystopians aren't romances? Because it detracts from the freaking plot, which is the point of a dystopian book. And we can have romance in a dystopian book. It's been done before. We can have romance without it overshadowing the plot. But, you know, I brought up earlier in the video that the author apparently said that she had never read a spicy dystopian romance, so she decided to write one. My main gripe is there's no chemistry between Cross and Ren. If you have to tell me that 2 characters have chemistry, intense chemistry, then it's likely they don't have any. So here's some examples. Okay, I wrote this as a note. Her and Kane have way more chemistry than she and Cross do. With Cross, it feels forced to fit the trope of morally gray, dark-haired love interest. Again, we're checking off a box here, people. You have a perfectly suitable golden retriever love interest right there. Switch it up. Okay, so she just kissed Cross. This was, apparently I wrote this after they kissed. There's no chemistry. She's just so attracted to him, despite the fact that she supposedly hates him. She says she's not afraid of him, but of how badly she wants to kiss him. And that there's a rawness to their connection that defies explanation. If you have to tell me they have a connection, they don't. So her and Cross hooked up. I love how it went from they kissed to now they've hooked up. I think that happened like soon after they kissed. I can't remember really. Again, not much chemistry. I get now why people are saying this book is if Katniss did it with a peacekeeper, because she has an intense hate for him, but then it's like, I think I was cut off, but yeah. So his flirting is gross, and so there's that. Then when he was revealed as Wolf, I actually liked him better because like he kind of changed. He like did a 180 and was like a different kind of guy, and I kind of liked him more when he revealed that he was Wolf. Then I said, God, the spice is so unnecessary, and again, her actions make no sense. She's so upset, and he's like, I'll make you forget. Oh yeah, because she killed this girl. To get into Silver Elite, they had to go in a room and fight. 2 people had to fight, and whoever tapped out wouldn't make it. And this girl, Bryce, that she was fighting didn't tap out, so Ren ended up killing her. And she was like bawling, so upset. I'll get to that in a minute because it was very out of character. And she was so upset about it. And then Cross was like, I'll make you forget. Like, clearly you're not that upset about killing Bryce, if, you know. Also, I know he's supposed to be like the dark-haired, morally gray love interest, but I kept picturing him as blonde. He's given very blonde jerk energy. So this is what happens every time she and Cross are together, before he revealed himself as Wolf. She remembers, so she enjoys his touch, or whatever it is they're doing. Then she suddenly remembers who he is. And then she's like, she remembers who she's being comforted by. Her enemy, this man she's supposed to be disgusted by. And then she's disgusted all over again. Okay, so now they did like a 2 months time skip after she was joined Silver Elite. So they did a time skip. And she's fully adapted to her new life in Silver Elite. And she is helplessly infatuated with Cross Redden. How? Why? All they've done is physical stuff. There's been no deep conversations, no exchange of personal tidbits. Like nothing. I don't get it. And then she said, I've been caught in a Cross Redden's spell. No matter how much I fight it, I can't stay away from him. Why? Why can't you stay away? What has he done that has you so infatuated? He's literally a copy-paste stand-in for every other morally gray, dark-haired, romantic love interest. It's like the author was checking a box when she wrote him. Again, just checking the box. So, surprise, surprise, Cross is Wolf. Okay, maybe I was smiling a bit when they realized who they were. That they were friends. You know, they've been friends like their whole lives in their heads. So maybe I was smiling a little bit when they were like, oh my god, and hugging. Yeah, okay, maybe I like that part. Okay, so then Kane died, by the way. Forgot to mention that. Her friend Kane died in this like tragic accident, which is a whole other thing about, it was like this mission and the Uprising didn't tell her about it and she was like so upset and yeah, he died. But then it wasn't very predictable that he was alive the whole time. Why is that predictable? Because he was too likable. I feel like I've read that exact scenario a million other times. So yeah, he was actually an Uprising spy. He's like this big hotshot pilot, and you find that out at the end. So, okay, moving on to my favorite category. Ren is the worst. She's literally the worst main character I've ever read about. I knew from the first freaking chapter when she was already bragging about her skills. I've talked about this, you know. Is that my internalized misogyny showing? I don't know. Maybe. I think Ren has broken me. So my main problem, the way she was developed. I'll get into this in my comments. This section has the most comments, by the way, so enjoy. Alright, guys, we have a flaw. She can't heal herself. She doesn't have healing energy like some other mods, but don't worry, she has like 4 other healing energies when most mods only have 1. So Ren's character needed more development and intentionality. She's very contradictory and her beliefs flip-flop. There's no strong values. She says one thing and then the next paragraph says another. I've been guilty of this in my own writing. You want your character to see all sides of something, but sometimes that can be detrimental to the story. If you have a character whose existence is illegal and she's imprisoned by her persecutors, she shouldn't feel sorry for them when they're disparaging her people out of fear. So she should be angry and disgusted by them. And she is, but she also says, well, I get it. Okay. And I do get that not everything is so black and white, but the character needs to be on one side, okay? And let the reader figure out what they want to believe. Okay, I've been complaining about her being perfect. So yeah, this is again, like she was like purposely failing all these skill tests and it was annoying me because I'm like, you can do it. And why wasn't she trying to get into Silver Elite in the first place? Like that would have made it more interesting, but whatever. Okay, we're finally getting some character motivation. So her friend that was revealed to be a mod, Batima, she wasn't really her friend, but Batima, she was killed by Ro, who's Cross's half-brother, and Ren was crashing out over this because she's realizing no one cares about her kind. She already knew this, of course, but this is her reminder. However, she also kissed Kane after he said the other girl would have been charged with concealment and died anyway, because she kissed him because she was so sad, and he invited her to sleep in his bed, and she thought he was sad too, so his bigoted comments were okay because maybe he didn't really mean them. But then, of course, we find out Kane was a double agent the whole time anyway, so whatever. Okay, we're back to her motivations not making any sense. So they have to do this drill called Fallen Soldier, and she and her friend Liddy are paired together. They fail, and this is after Ren is tasked with trying to get into Silver Elite, by the way. So they fail the challenge, and Ren finds out from another recruit who has done the program before that it's because Ren didn't leave Liddy behind. To pass, you have to basically shed your compassion and leave your partner behind. Ren freaks out about this and refuses, saying she can't just abandon her compassion. Like, girl, what? You're supposed to hate all these people anyway. Why do you care? It's a drill. You're trying to pass the program to join Silver Elite. Okay, then she killed that girl Bryce trying to get, the final test before they could join Silver Elite. And she was freaking out, crying so much over killing her. Like, I thought you didn't like any of them. And you're always bragging about being so awesome. And, like, you can turn down your emotions. Why is this bothering you? Character actions all over the place here. So for a character so full of herself, she's really stupid. I wrote that down. Okay, so she's at a hospital and she stumbles into a room full of fragmented mods, meaning their minds were too weak and to withstand their psychic powers. And instead of Ren feeling sorry for her people, she is sickened by and afraid of them. And then she says, what if my brain hadn't been strong enough? What if I'd ended up in a place like this? I swear she's the worst main character I've ever read about. So she has compassion for her supposed enemies, but no compassion for the people she's actually trying to save. When confronted by them, she only thinks of herself. The writing is so lacking and unnuanced, it's actually insane. It's becoming more and more obvious that this author had an idea for what they wanted to write, a vibe, if you will, a vague plot, and didn't bother to sit down and spend time with their characters and the world they live in. And I know some people read for vibes. I used to. I just can't anymore. It's hard for me to turn that part of my brain off. Okay, please, this line. Okay, so remember the cave I mentioned on their date? So they're in that cave for some reason. And it's dark, and Ren, because she's perfect, not weak in any way, Ren says, the darkness hadn't bothered me. I'm at home in the dark. And obviously she's not claustrophobic by being in the tight tunnels, but anyone else might have felt claustrophobic. Not her, though. Now she's going to the general's mansion with Cross, and she's like, OMG, this is prime opportunity to gather intel since I'll be at his house. So she calls up her contact in the uprising in her mind, and she's like, listen, this is what's going on. But oh no, she feels guilty. It feels wrong sitting beside Cross and using telepathy to report on his enemy, but I silence my conscience and capitalize on this moment. Where to even start? Her character is just so poorly written. It's not even that she's a complicated character, it's just bad writing. We're given zero opportunity to actually learn and empathize or sympathize with Cross. We are instead told that he's compassionate, and told her complicated emotions toward him rather than being shown it. Okay, so the one time I was like, now we're cooking with the dystopian themes, Ren freaking ruins it, because of course she does. The line is this. So her contact Adrienne jokingly says, assassinate the general if you see him at the house. And Ren is like, what? And then Adrienne says, kidding, that won't do anything. And if you want to enact change, you need to do more than just take out the leader. You need to reprogram the minds, root out the ideology. So I was like, okay, dystopian, like yes, rebels, fascist regimes. And Ren thinks to herself, I wonder if she recognizes the irony, if she realizes she's repeating the same things General Redden says during his broadcasts. Like, I don't understand her. I don't even think she cares about mods or the uprisings or anything. Like, she's so passive in this uprising, it's absurd. Sure, she's a spy for them now in Silver Elite, but we didn't even get to see her do that. It flashed 2 months forward, and we're told she sent intel to them. And she's still bitter towards them for ignoring her for the first 3 weeks she was there. Like, does she even care? All she cares about is Cross, and she's literally acting like a prime, and I can't formulate how I feel about this, but it's not good. And she doesn't care because it never crossed her mind to excel in Silverblock in the first place. Like, hello, the most elite program in their military, and she doesn't think a mod infiltrating that would be in any way useful. Okay, I think I said this like 5 times. I think I'm going to stop taking notes because you get the point by now. I do have to add 2 things that happened in the same page, and this is why it's taking me forever to finish this damn book. First up, she eats dinner with Lash, who is a guy that they know, and says, it feels like I haven't seen him in ages, to remind the reader of who he is and where he's been. He's dating Ivy now, it seems, who is Cross's ex-girlfriend. Ren is happy for them and says Lash is a good man, even though he'd strangle her if he knew she was modified. So I'll let you digest that. Next up, a bit before this, she was annoyed that the uprising had ignored her for those first 2 weeks that she was training in Silverblock, and she said, they probably would have kept ignoring me had Batima not died. And to remind you, Batima is the mod who was their original spy, and Cross's brother Ro killed her. Anyway, that sentence makes you think, maybe Ren doesn't care too much that she died, because if Batima hadn't died, Ren would still be on her own. She said lines like that before. And just now on page 421, she says, I still think of Batima often. I didn't know her as well as I would have liked, but she didn't deserve to die. Girl! Okay, it only took her 438 pages to realize her lines are blurring when it comes to her allegiance. Girl, don't worry, I know you thought you were on the command side. You don't care about the uprising as much as you should. So there's a complicated theming of morality and right and wrong and all those gray areas, and unfortunately, this author was not skilled enough to execute in an effective or appropriate manner. It left the character motivations all over the place, to the point where I never knew what Ren was thinking. Ren only questions her morality when it's convenient for the plot. She incites the powerful mod, Jade Valance, to kill herself when she corners Ren and discovers she's working for the uprising. Jade says mods disgust her and they're unnatural. No pointing out the irony that she is a mod, by the way. And it's clear she's going to do bad things to Ren. In an act of self-defense, Ren incites Jade to turn her gun on herself and pull the trigger because there's literally no other way out. She feels good about inciting her. Powerful. But then Jade is dead and Ren suddenly has a crisis of conscience and brings up gray areas and how she's grappling with her moral compass as if she hasn't been dealing with that this entire book. I think I might be a monster. I made a woman kill herself. As if the woman wasn't a monster as well, so now you care about mods when they're straight up evil. Now she feels sick because one of the uprising leaders corrupted the mind of the general, which is a reason Jade gave for despising the mods despite being one herself. And now Ren is starting to sympathize with Jade and the general whose only goal in life and leadership is to rid the world of her kind. Okay, and so then I had to add this. Ren was beating herself up over inciting Jade to kill herself, and then later she laughs about it. Like, what? Okay, wow. Let's take a deep breath, because that was a lot. I literally got a headache reading the last 20% of this book. I'm exhausted. I look back to me from a week ago. I was so hopeful. I wanted to like this book. I did. I wanted to give it a fair chance, especially it's a book that's, popular amongst a group of women. I wanted to give it a fair chance, but it was just not it. There's a lot of things that were wrong with it. I could talk about it forever. I could sum them up in one word though. Ren. Yeah, Ren. So that's about what was wrong with it. Lazy writing. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out that this book was AI generated. It's just lacking so much. Character depth, fleshed out plot. It's like someone fed an AI generator all the 2010s dystopian books plus Fourth Wing and then asked it to create something new instead of trying to just develop something themselves. The world building has promise, the plot has promise, it just feels lackluster and hastily developed. Overall, this was an insult to the dystopian genre. I am filing a grievance. I fear we are losing critical thought. We really are. I'm all for vibe books. This just was not it. Since when did we get so lazy with our storytelling? It's especially irresponsible when you're writing within this genre and when words have so much power. It felt like a waste and that really sucks. Thanks for watching. What should I read next? What should I subject myself to next? Yeah, I could talk about this book forever. Leave a comment if you've read it, if you want any more details, if you want any more expanded thoughts. Even though I am tired, please help. I don't think I can read anything else after this book. I'm ruined. I'm broken.